All right. Welcome to another Bonsai Wire podcast. I'm Eric Schrader, and I am here with the Bonsai Bros. Introduce yourself, fellas.
I'm Jay. I'm the older one.
I'm Greg. I'm the youngest of five.
So you guys have been doing bonsai for a long time, and if I remember the story correctly, Greg is the culprit in terms of who got us started here. So Greg, how did this whole thing get going and such a large crime spree that you've now gone on?
Well, hunting for my wife's birthday present when living in Santa Cruz, came across a redwood raft creation, and it absolutely clicked in my brain that this is something I had to do, and it just pretty much started immediately after seeing this redwood tree. And he had some books, bought some books, and but literally seeing this tree, it literally clicked something in my brain. I knew this was what I was going to be doing for a while. So,
And then my little brother called me 2 or 3 weeks later. We always joke about that. He's got me by 2 or 3 weeks in our bonsai careers. But I had just quit drinking, and he knows me, and he said, Jay, this is right up your alley. I'm not even going to tell you what it is. You got to come and see it. So he was living down in Santa Cruz, so I shot down for the weekend, and it was a little bonsai shop going out of business right around the corner from where he was living. And he was right. I wasn't in there 2 minutes and hit me like a ton of bricks. And then we just kind of took the ball and ran with it. We were both, him doing it out of Santa Cruz and me doing it out of Marin, and it just kind of developed from there. So
I think that's probably a common experience for a lot of people where you just see a bonsai and you're not quite sure what it is that captures your imagination. So, I mean, a lot of people being people that would be serious enough to be listening to a bonsai podcast anyway. But if you think back on that experience, Greg, what do you think, like if you try to kind of enumerate it, what do you think actually caught your attention? Like, why was it so fascinating?
well, for one, it was a redwood
yeah.
burl, and it probably wasn't by today's standards anything really neat, but it was in a very shallow tray, and it was in water, and it was it was a burl, and it was a really neat natural piece of wood, and just the natural look of the piece was really something that was special. But it was in a really shallow tray, and just something clicked. It was just an absolute switch, and.
So you were in Santa Cruz at the time, so pretty good exposure to redwood. So, so you're going between just a redwood out in the park or something that's tall, and now you're seeing this gnarly, burly kind of thing. And how did it look like a bonsai? Do you remember?
It was a miniature giant tree in this little miniature tray. And growing up in Marin around redwoods and oak trees, it was to see it in this miniaturized form. It was profound. That's all I know. I mean, it literally it floored me. But it was incredible wood.
The wood floored me too. It was instantaneous.
Same tree.
Not so much the same tree, just the miniature factor.
Right.
Of, me and him, when we were little, we didn't have toys. Nature was our toy. My mom had to scream and yell to get us to come and eat dinner. We lived in the wilderness, and nature was our toy. So we have a built-in affinity for nature and integrated with art. It's just something that fit for us.
I have to say, growing up in San Anselmo would probably give you a pretty good affinity for redwoods and oaks.
Eric, we got to say our parents are probably our biggest input. My dad was a student of Frank Lloyd Wright. Our mom went to Tokyo American High School, and her father lived in Japan after the war. So we had a lot of Japanese art in our family. It was the Japanese art factor was there, and Frank Lloyd Wright pulled a lot of his design from Japanese architecture. So we already had a kind of a head start on being already artistic people. I think Jay was a fantastic artist. My dad was. I was a good artist. We were just naturally artistic, and all these little pieces of the puzzle helped kind of.
We had real good visionary skills that we got. My father was an amazing architect. And the best attribute I think a bonsai artist can have is the ability to envision where you're going with what you're doing to the tree.
Your superpower.
Yeah.
And being in Marin,
my bonsai spidey sense.
Well, Marin was a pretty artistic place. You kind of couldn't get away from art in Marin. Music. Natural sculptural art, a lot of
money here, and money breeds art.
No,
so I grew up in Mendocino County, which obviously is a little bit more remote. But I remember one of the first times I drove out Sir Francis Drake from Highway 101 to the coast, all the way to the coast. And the one thing, what am I going to say here, guys? The one thing that stuck in my head on that drive. Spirit Rock.
Spirit Rock and now, Samuel Taylor Park too. Go driving that road through the redwoods.
I guess that's a good point.
Amazing.
I had seen plenty of redwoods, but Spirit Rock was that something that like had an impact?
I remember Spirit Rock when those oak trees were 6 feet tall.
Oh, really?
They're like 35, 40 feet tall.
They're like spilling out of the middle of it. It's crazy.
But they were miniature when I was a kid.
Right.
It was inspirational as hell. The rock was what was huge, and the oaks were little when I was a kid. Now it's the opposite.
Our dad wanted to build a house there. He loved that property. He said he wanted to build his masterpiece right next to the rock.
I think there were probably a lot of people in Marin at the time. Like you said, there were a lot of artistic people around, and there were probably a lot of people that really, did that same drive and got inspired by that particular outcropping of rock. I mean, for those of people who haven't seen it and aren't like looking at a photo or something, it's basically like a giant boulder sitting in the middle of a field, kind of with a split down the middle, and out of the middle of that split there's like one or two oak trees.
There's one right in the middle in the front, and there's another smaller one that grows up out of the back. And the way they're positioned in the rock is so bonsai perfect.
It looks like a bonsai.
Beyond words.
Yeah, it looks exactly like a bonsai. Like you just pick it up and put it in a tray.
It's like the greatest rock planting ever.
So
native oak too. Coast live oak.
Yeah. I think that was that was inspirational for me at least as a beginner. Yeah. So Greg, you from your start in Santa Cruz, I know you're up in Placerville now, and you and your brother have taken very different paths in terms of how you have,
attacked bonsai.
Attack bonsai, bonsai attack. Yeah. So Greg, talk a little bit about you've been. Last time I was up at your place, you were still growing trunks. Like I walk out in your yard, and not only do you have a bonsai collection, you have a yard full of trees that just sort of look like trees. You're like, no, this I'm growing the trunk here.
In the ground.
Yeah,
he's got dirt. I don't. I'm a renter.
My yard is going through a transformation now. My yard has been a grow operation, growing, collecting the best material I could find over 25 years. And now I'm to the stage where I'm happy with my trees now, the refinement stage, and working on, some. But I've been busy. I've been a full-time, 40-hour week guy, dad. My daughter.
He's a government employee.
But life has changed, and it's really good. So, but I've been developing, I think, the best bonsai material that I could do in my place, and now I'm at a different stage where I'm,
You're out of the ground and he's starting to wire.
So, I mean, but you're ground grind. So wait a minute. What year was it if we're going all the way back to
2002.
No.
Allie was born in 2002.
Yeah, but you were
That's when I moved to Placerville.
Yeah, I'm talking about when we started doing bonsai.
Oh, 99 is when we
97.
99. It was the
Nope. Wrong.
Okay, sometime in there.
Jay likes to think he did thing longer than he actually did, but it's 99.
Hey, I know
Okay.
when believe me, I know when I quit drinking.
So did you immediately start looking for young material to plant in the ground?
Yeah, absolutely. I saw JT had a garden in San Jose that he had this little backyard place. Everybody I knew that I met had little grow operations, and I saw how fast they could develop stuff. They could wire something small, so I saw a lot of really good information.
But you were out in the hills digging.
I was a collector. I went and
bringing those
collected
big bomber oaks back that I was green with envy over.
Once again, JT and Gareth Shepard, who was probably my biggest mentor, he had access to all the best oak areas you could dream about collecting. Deer pruned oaks that were these little domes but had real solid trunks. And
So this was in the Santa Cruz Mountains?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
and redwoods as well.
And
We collected my first
when
tree
you
was
moved up to the foothills. You were
I was always looking for
buckeye
material to
that I had. You dug that up up there.
That was with Gareth.
Yeah.
We dug that, and that was from LaGrange.
But I mean, you were bringing him home. His wife is pretty stiff with the coin as far as what she will allow him to spend.
Well,
so he was out digging.
Yeah,
I was
but
the
I mean,
opposite.
collecting is one of the best ways
best
to
way,
get going in
yeah.
bonsai. So it sounds like Greg was kind of the starter, and maybe Jay, you were the finisher.
I'm into the details.
How many of his trees did he swindle you out of? How many of your trees did he swindle?
Not really that many. Probably maybe 5.
5, 6,
5 or
7, 8,
6.
9 or 10, maybe.
No.
So was there a lot of horse trading going on here? Where,
Well,
like,
I'm a finished carpenter, so his garage needed my love, and he's got the greatest shop, and it just looked like holy hell when he first got it. And I came up there and we spruced it all up, and then he started doing master workshops, bringing the heavyweights in because he had such a great workshop outbuilding. We'd have 5, 6 people in a workshop, and he had Ryan, Bjorn, Peter T. Who else? But I mean, he had each one of those people multiple times.
Yeah.
I mean,
for
these
years.
were some heavyweight workshops, so we had to spruce the place up if we were going to present a proper product.
It's always good to have a nice workshop.
Yeah. And
It was good. It was
so we
good.
did a little trading there. And he had this one oak that is sitting on the ground, and his dog is ripping around the yard at 30 miles an hour, banging into the thing. Dude, I'm taking this tree home. And now it's one of the better trees in my collection.
So
Where did you get that?
which oak?
The Israeli?
Mick, that
Oh,
oak
yeah.
nursery.
Yeah.
So you got an old Israeli oak and kind of turn it into a bonsai.
Well, Jay I'd bring him to vacation down at Jay's house because where I live, it's hot as hell in the summer. I mean, it was 105 for like 2 months straight up at my place. So I bring my redwoods down, and they stay here, and they kind of come back and forth. It's
I have optimum climate, I should say, for a lot of species of tree.
It's definitely a little bit. It's just so mild here in Marin.
But we
compared to-
get the seasons.
Yeah,
Not extreme in any part of the season, but it's just nice
not
incremental
as extreme
seasons.
as Placerville.
Yeah. Well, he's foothills.
But it's a great area. I think it's the best area to grow trees because we have fantastic water, number one. We have a hot summer. We have excellent fall. We get pretty cold in the winter, but not so cold that it's debilitating.
Snows.
And a beautiful spring can be a little tumultuous as far as, frost, late frost. And it's a little sketchy in the springtime, but
That's where I live is epic.
yeah.
I get the
Yeah, no
unbelievable
frost. Moderate.
maple spring color leaves that are just as good as it gets.
But that's why my shop is being renovated right now, so I can accommodate my valley. I have a lot of deciduous oaks that need care.
By the
in
way,
spring.
I've retired as a carpenter.
You're not looking for work.
I'm not looking for work.
And you're not remodeling your brother's shop.
Hardwood is
So, Greg, where did the, I've been to your house once. You had, in the 2022 Expo, you had a Washington hawthorn, I believe, and you are going to have a different hawthorn. Is it Louisiana hawthorn in the 24 Expo? How did you get into hawthorns? Like, were those some of the ones that you grew in your yard, or were those collected trees?
Hawthorn was a species that kind of just I gravitated towards naturally.
Small leaves right out of the gate.
Yeah, there's just something magical about hawthorns, and that's another story.
You like being poked in the finger, getting a little blood on the.
They just. Maybe a few trees that I saw. Gareth Jeppard had some hawthorns, but something about hawthorns really interests me. And it turns out Druids worshipped hawthorns and oaks and things like that. So that's another story.
Well, I mean, it's important to connect people's experiences with like the trees that we're working with. So
certain species.
Yeah. If you have going back to your dad and your history in Marin with growing up and whatnot, was hawthorn something that you remember seeing in yards and whatnot?
No,
it was
not
more
at all.
native.
It's
more
not
native
like
stuff.
a childhood memory.
I remember
oaks. Definitely,
you dug 2 of them though, right where we grew up.
Yeah. The Washington thorn that was in the expo came from San Anselmo, where my sister was living.
10 blocks away.
From next door to my best friend growing up.
She was renting a place, and this thing was this scrubby little piece of dirt.
So get this thing out of here.
And I remember when he said, "Come on down here, give me a hand." I said, "What the hell do you want that thing for?" I would kill to own this tree now.
Yeah.
It was just one of those quirky things.
It had interesting movement right out of the gate.
Where his vision is up to par.
So you dug it in San Anselmo, now it lives up in Placerville, and you managed to just absolutely nail the fall foliage for 2022. I mean,
that's why hawthorns are what they are. They have the best fall color in the business. Yeah. I'll argue that point with anybody.
The timing was a little tricky on that one. You just do the best you can, but obviously that time of year is prime time for them. And they're pretty consistent. They're not like a long shot to get fall color. You're going to get good fall color weather.
The timetable is reasonably consistent year to year.
I have a few young Washington thorns, a few young ones, and one of the things I noticed was that it's not like they turn color and the leaves just drop. Like they turn color and they are on there for weeks.
Almost a month.
Yeah.
And they evolve too. The color will evolve. It'll go from red to orange, and vice versa. It's really neat. Or to red, orange to red, and then peak and then kind of turn a little. Really fun.
Now, do you find with the Washington thorn you had in the 22 show that the particular pattern of weather that you have in Placerville is really beneficial for the color? And is it so when you think about, I think we've talked about it off tape a few times, lots of sun during the day and then a really cold night. And do you find that the color that your hawthorns are giving you is really dependent on those two things?
It's helpful. We have traditionally really good fall weather. It's real dry, like you said, 70, 80s in the day and, 35 at night sometimes. Real crisp nights, real sunny days. That's when you get the magic combination for spectacular.
And that's why his change color 2 to 3 weeks before mine do. Yeah. Because he gets the cold nights before I get the cold nights.
And we're just above the fog, too, because that time of year, the fog starts to come into the valley, where the valley will be shrouded in fog. But I'm at 2,000 feet, so I'm just above that fog line, so I don't get that. So that's another real benefit, just above that fog. Because the fog comes in pretty early. Sometimes even in August, you'll start to see the valley fog.
Hawthorns, awesome trees.
So,
Neon orange.
Speaking of fall color, Jay, I think when I was more a beginner, maybe at least 10 years ago, it's been a while, Marin, you being a major force in the Marin Bonsai Club here in Marin County, Marin was putting on a fall show, and at the time, it was the only fall show. So I was a member of BIB.
That was my brainchild.
I was a member of BIB. I was a member of the San Francisco group, but I was not in the Marin Club. I attended from time to time, but you were one of the main people that did this. And so just to put it in context, the show took place at a art and garden center in Ross. Beautiful buildings, kind of like 1970s feeling.
Or earlier.
Or maybe earlier, yeah. And you guys kind of took over one particular section of that. So talk a little bit about maybe, your brother nailed the fall color in 2022, but I'm going to say that you were doing it first.
Yeah. I remember seeing a couple of his trees him being up in the foothills, and the brilliant color that he was getting, and it made me want that. And my other super mentor was Frank Bardella out of the Redwood Empire Club, who probably had one of the best collections in the United States. And we were fall color junkies, if you will. And I started thinking, nobody puts on a show for fall color. Well, come to find out, a fall color show with a lot of trees in fall color is a very difficult scenario to pull off, because there's so many different color changing patterns in different species and trees. It's really hard to get a lot of fall color trees at the same weekend, if you will.
Right. Yeah.
And so, but how I overcame that is I was a member of four, maybe 5 clubs at that point. And like I said, the fall show at Marin was kind of my dream show, kind of like you and Jonas have created the expo. Well, the fall show for the Marin Club was my dream to create. And so as I was a member of a lot of clubs, what I did was I imported some guest artists for the fall show, which kind of caught a little guff, but it turned out so great that, how could you argue with such a great outcome?
I think it was, for me, maybe an early highlight of the potential of deciduous material to be more eye-catching than conifers, because people think of conifers as being really eye-catching, and maybe the sort of graphical nature of the interplay of lifelines and whatnot on junipers. It's very eye-catching when it's done well, but the fall shows kind of can actually trump that, I think.
Well, but the other side of the coin is you have to combine the both of them. We would go one nice big conifer and then maybe a small deciduous next door and another conifer, kind of the every other scenario where you mix it up and you're, blown away from tree to tree to tree and mixing it up as you meandered through the display.
That show also had fruiting trees that were mind-blowing as well. It wasn't just
pomegranates in
mulberry,
full color, cracked open with just amazing time to show bonsai.
So actually, that's a great point, Greg. I was actually just going to ask while he was talking if there was a thought process, like, I know it can be really intuitive for you, Jay, to organize a show. You're just like, oh yeah, that's a great tree. Yeah. But did you put a lot of thought into fruiting, like trees that actually had fruit in them versus trees that were going to be in fall color?
I like I was saying earlier, I have pretty good visionary skills. So I would hunt, I would go to people's houses and they might want to show one tree, and I said, no, I don't want that one. I want that one. And it seemed to work out because I was pretty, knowledgeable as far as the fall color transformation schedule.
You're a one-man jury.
Well, yeah. Well, it's a rough job, but somebody's got to do it. And I am not afraid to step on a toe or two. But it just kind of worked out. And I think it did work out because I'm a little overbearing and forceful. But because I have good visionary skills, that's what it takes. Sometimes you got to be a little rough and worry about the show, not the roster of people in the show, which a lot of people get politically correct about, but it can really hurt a show thinking in those terms.
Right. Like what you're talking about is actually part of the same thing that Jonas and I talked about in terms of vision for the expo. And that is that, well, it's great to have a club, whether, however strong the club is. Like BIB was a really strong club that put on a winter show, not a fall show. So going to the fall show that Marin put on was really interesting for me because it's a whole different experience. Like the BIB show is in mid-January. So you're getting quince flowers, you're getting ume flowers, and maybe one or two pieces of fruit hanging on from the fall, but not fall color, not spring color, other than the flowers, right? Because almost all the trees are bare. Yeah. So I think that process that you're talking about where you're kind of, to use your word, stepping on some toes or making some people mad. Essentially what you're doing is you're trying to curate a show and take it beyond the bounds of the current organization that you're a part of. And it's an interesting concept and something that I think of maybe as we're progressing here towards larger organizations, like fewer larger organizations, because post-COVID, there's been a difficulty in finding enough people to volunteer.
I've seen a lot of depletion of a lot of what were healthy clubs and have really been decimated by COVID.
Yeah.
But most of them are still there, not all of them, but like the Marin Club, it used to have, a lot of, not heavyweight, but a lot of solid artists that, half of them drifted away. And now, God bless the club, but it's full of rookies that don't really have a lot of trees. And here's where the stepping on the toes type thing comes into play. We just did a show at the county fair, and it used to be renowned. 10,000 people would see this show, and it's over a 5-day period, and it was incredible. But this last year, the security was a little lax, so I was afraid to park half of my 401k in this room. So I provided 5, 6, 7 trees, but a lot of it was rookie orientated, and so it kind of
the club's in a building phase.
The club's in a building phase, yeah. And it's not anybody's fault. It's just you work with what you got and you move on.
Yeah. So you this year are going back to the fruit. You are going to be showing a
large pomegranate. So we're going to have fall foliage from one brother and hopefully some fruit from the other. Well, I'm talking fall foliage as well. Lemon yellow with red fruit.
Oh, that's going to take some tough timing.
Yeah.
Do you get it?
I don't know. We'll see. The guy that bought the tree from me, whenever I sell trees, I have two prices. I have, if you buy the tree and you allow me show rights, is what I call able to borrow the tree at my discretion, is one price. And if you buy the tree without show rights, it's quite a bit larger of a price, because that tree is more often than not leaving my life, where the show rights trees are kind of keep them. That's how I make a portion of my living, is maintaining bonsai. and so I can keep styling the tree, but the money's in my pocket.
So it's interesting, you guys having the same starting point and taking completely different approaches to bonsai. Like you're talking about, you're making money off it, doing a little bit of horse trading and buying and selling trees.
I'm a show slut.
But Greg, you've had trees.
He's not married either. Does not have any kids around.
I have 2 kids.
So, but Greg, how many of your trees that are kind of in your stable of things that you're still working on have you had for 20 plus years?
A lot of them. A lot of them are collected trees, so it's taken years to get them
I
to
would
the
say
point.
70% of what you've had a long time.
I think even more than that.
Yeah,
I've had them a long time.
And Jay, how many trees have you had more than 20 years?
It's pump and dump with me. I move them in, move them out.
I think
I'm a detail specialist. I wire them up. I use Miracle Grow. I build trees quick. A lot of the times, I get a tree for a pretty reasonable price, usually because it has a flaw that you can't really fix, but you can hide. So that's what I'm good at. I'll take a tree that's mediocre, really refine it, and if need be, hide the flaw of the tree with intricate branch structure. It's kind of cheating, or I don't know what you want to call it, but I'm in the mindset, if a tree looks good, it is good. And, it's not going to win Kokufu, but it still looks awesome. So I'm okay with that. And most people are, there's the purists that don't want nothing to do with my trees.
Well, I think that is the tree that you've had the longest at this point. The tanuki, your large tanuki that you made back when
probably that one, and no, that is the one I've had the longest, because I built that in 2001.
So, pride of construction. You were a proud carpenter.
But I wasn't making much money, so I couldn't afford the big collected specimens that I desired. And so I said I wasn't taking no for an answer. I built my own. It's a fake, but I mean it doesn't look that great right now because I'm letting it relax, if you will. But it's blown minds for 20 years.
So what do you think made you hang on to that tree rather than any other?
Just because it's a tanuki, and I was kind of always in the mindset that I could never really get very much money for it, just because it was a tanuki. But things have changed. The bonsai market is as good as it's ever been, and that's one of my next projects, is to get that baby back in shape. Now I have purchased a new fire-breathing Dodge Challenger with 500 horsepower that I need to pay for, and so I will be selling.
It's fire sale.
Not fire sale, but I need to sell some trees to finish up paying for the car, and but I have 2 really good tanukis, and I think those are 2 that I'm not going to sell. Because those trees are all me, and being tanukis, I don't care how good it looks, it's still a tanuki, and you can only go up so high monetarily. So those will probably be 2 of the trees I hold on to.
So Greg, going back to the contrast between the 2 of you, what do you like when you think about selling a tree? What goes through your head?
I don't like selling
He
trees.
doesn't think.
I don't think about selling. It's not like my drive to grow bonsai trees is to have a profit for them, because that's definitely where we differ big time.
So, but I mean, it would be beneficial, or it could be beneficial in some ways for you to sell trees to the benefit of other trees, but you find that you want to hold on to them, and but you're a propagator too, so you've got to have extra trees.
Yeah, I'm growing the trees the best that I can. I'm doing what's best for the tree. I'm not doing that for me. I'm doing it to make the best bonsai trees. I'm not doing
If his daughter didn't get the basketball scholarship, he'd be thinking
it may
like
be
me.
different. If my daughter, that's very true, because that wasn't a pressure. I grew bonsai trees hoping that someday this would help my daughter, but my daughter is an amazing
awesome
basketball player, and she's still on her master's program scholarship playing basketball. But I mean,
all his bonsai trees are going.
I'm not afraid to take the long road with bonsai. Or Jay likes to have it done. He can't look at a tree that looks like crap. It's got to look good all the time, and we know that's sometimes the worst thing you can do to a tree is try to keep it look good. You have to let it elongate. You have to. There's a lot of things that you have to do to keep a tree long term.
I think he just admitted that you're right when he said that he's
I
letting
know.
his.
I'll be the first to admit it.
And that's where we differ. And but we still want the same goal. I'm just taking a different avenue to get there. And
but nobody's ever seen any of his trees. As I said earlier, I'm a show slut, and I'm in 5 clubs, and I probably do 6+ shows a year, and my stuff is out in the mix. I'm like PR for bonsai.
Yeah.
And I've had people literally brought people to tears over a couple of my trees. Now, granted, they were some of my best trees, but I was just at Japantown this last spring, and a little girl came up and was looking at my redwood, which is a tall, formal upright. She goes, I have a tree like this in my front yard. I've grown up with it my whole life. And she literally started crying. That's something I can get behind. Bringing emotion to people of that caliber doing bonsai. It was so rewarding. I can't tell you. So that's where I like to be. I'm not afraid to be out in the mix. He's the bonsai hideaway.
I have to work on my narcissism, so I'm trying to work on that. So,
well, but I mean, there's different way. I think different people have different relationships with their trees, and when I was a beginner, I was more like you, Greg, and as I've started growing more and more, I like to say that I started selling trees because I kept making more and more trees, and I couldn't keep all of them. And it was just obvious to me that like at some point you just have too many trees if you're always propagating, which advocate.
He is at that point.
Yeah.
Well, you go into his yard,
my
you
trees
can't hardly
that
walk.
I would never. A lot of trees I don't think I would sell. They're collected trees. They're special trees. They're
One
not
of a
just.
kind, yeah.
There's nothing run of the mill in my yard. Even some of the stuff that I've grown, I'm really proud of it because it's really unique, and I could never ever replace it. And I'm obviously attached to something I've grown for 25 years or 20 years, whatever.
Yeah, I think that's the difference. Is he's grown them, I've bought them. Fire sale, whatever. There's 100 stories.
So, Greg, I hate it when people ask me what my favorite tree is. Like I don't know what to say. And it's a hard question to answer because you're just like, well, it's like asking if you have 10 kids, which kid is your favorite?
Season.
It depends on the season, depends on the mood you're in.
Sure.
So here's a different way of asking that question. That is, the firemen are just about to bust down the fence in your backyard. You get to pick up one.
Worse.
You get to pick up one tree and run. Which one is it?
Oh, well, I gotta say the Katsura maple I've been cultivating for a while. I made some big cuts. It's looking really good. I'm really happy with it. The hawthorn that's on my alternate list for this year's expo. I got that from a guy that Jay and Mick was a guy in Prunedale that who grew bonsai material for 50 years, and we got turned on to this guy, and I got this old hawthorn that he had grafted with a very ugly variety of hawthorn, and I ended up growing it in the ground and developing it and realized I'm losing that grafted. It's junk for bonsai. And I ended up, it was English hawthorn that he had grafted on to rootstock. And so that one, I'm really happy because it's really developed. I've wired, I've done everything. The work's been done. Now it's pretty much ready for a show.
So you kept the rootstock and ditched the graft.
I grew it in the ground for, I don't know, close to 10 years though. So, I mean, put it on a plywood board, tried to grow everything out that I could, and then realized that this big cylinder of a tree is never going to be, and I defoliated the variety that he had put on, and it came back bigger. The fruit were huge. They were like,
He was striking out at every corner.
it was just, it was a losing battle. This variety, so, and then I saw at the base, I had kept the original grafted material because it had teeny little leaves and this gorgeous, and it got fall color. So I had this, and I started just leaving all the basil sprouts. And next thing I know, I have this little fucking miniature with this huge trunk.
Yeah, no, it's got
And
really good
and I
taper.
carved this really neat little section into it, and adios to the cylinder. And now I have a
And that was
potential.
quite a flagpole.
And it put its first flower out. That's another reason I was happy to show it, because it flowered for the first time in 23 years that I had it.
Does that mean that you're going to have some berries on it this fall?
No, I don't. I won't have berries because I repotted it, and I tend to not let them flower. I'm not that one in particular, but I try not to repot because I did a pretty aggressive root prune to get it into the pot for the show.
Now, I know locally, I have not. It's funny, Bernard, who is out on the avenues in San Francisco, he's been growing hawthorn there, and it's crazy how adaptable they are. Like, you're in 100-degree weather all summer. He's 55, and they're still growing.
And damp.
And I'm not talking years old. He's 55 degrees all summer. And damp, and the hawthorns still grow in that kind of a climate.
You can't overwater them. They can take intense heat. The overwatering part is you can. I literally water that 5 times
The
a
only
day.
downside is if you don't get a cold winter, the fall color is nowhere near as vibrant as it is if you do get the cold.
But the smaller, the more twiggy you get it, the more the more consistent the fall color. Like my Washington thorn, it's got a real
but
nice.
you don't know because you live at 2,000 feet.
I have consistent cold weather, so I have
That's my point. Yeah.
very, very reliable weather for fall color.
But you were saying about, if you could take one tree out of his yard and he's picking that one, and I'm listening to this going, there is 20 trees in his yard that I'd be sprinting out of that yard with, as opposed to the one he's talking about. But that's the difference between us, is he's gone through so much strife to get that tree to be what it is. Where me, I buy a tree and whip it into shape, and it's ready to go to a new customer. So I'd be grabbing the one out of my yard that's monetarily gonna bring me the biggest payday.
So you said Katsura maple. Is that a palmatum variety, or is that?
It's an orange. It has
Orange
tangerine.
leaves. Oh God, it's
this
gorgeous.
dreamy tangerine color and super vigorous and super small leaves. I can't say enough about it. Valvanus I've been watching his developing trees, and I saw it when I saw the orange, the tangerine spring color. It's like one of those Seigen or Deshojo. It's
a great species.
So my perspective. Okay, so starting where you started, kind of with redwoods and oaks, the Japanese maples, they're interesting, but the only Japanese maple I had for many, many years, it was actually the first tree I got, was just a regular green seedling. So talk a little bit about how you just got knee deep in all of these varietal names.
Okay, so the color, Jay actually was in the Cow Palace show in San Francisco, and there was a Seigen with a black backdrop, and it's one of those moments in life. It was this pink And it was a Seigen. It was, and Jay actually, his customer, owns the tree now. And it literally, it was like, it magically transformed because it had a black backdrop, whether it was at the old Cow Palace.
Black velvet.
It was black velvet, and
so it was a show experience that got
absolutely.
you into maples.
And the color though, this Seigen's color. It was like the shoujo and Seigen pink. It was just stunning. And I knew then that it was a really neat part of the whole.
So from that experience, where did you go? What was your next sort of step in terms of obtaining?
I didn't have a lot of money. I couldn't go and buy. And back in those days, Japanese maples were really expensive. Just the little grafted seedlings were like $300. It was insane. So I couldn't afford anything. So I always had to hunt. And I was a plumber for Starbucks. So I had access to travel all over the Bay Area, hunt all of Northern California, really. For material, because I'd have some downtime after a job.
The nursery rat.
I was the bonsai bloodhound was what a lot of people call me, because I would literally, and I could scour a nursery in seconds and pick out the best material. And honestly, I was always really good at finding the best material quickly. Whether I was in the mountains, in a nursery, I could find the best bonsai material pretty quickly. That was definitely something was kind of natural.
So is the Katsura that you're running out of the yard with, is it a grafted one, or did you?
It is a grafted tree, and it's almost fused though. The graft line it's old too. The tree's probably 50 years old.
Nice.
And it's one I air layered the top off it, so I have the baby tree for it. And
but you air layered it just well above the graft, so you actually ended up.
Oh
with
yeah,
two.
this was the top of the tree. I got some nursery trees in a box,
right?
40-inch boxes that I got, and I bought I don't know 5 trees from a sale.
So how big is the trunk?
Trunk is probably like this, and it tapers to a tree about this big. It's got incredible taper.
So you're saying this is like a 12-inch base, 12-inch diameter base?
It's got an awesome base, and it's very natural. I mean, it's not like a Japanese perfect Nabari, but it's pretty damn close, and it radiates. I may have to graft some roots in it naturally. I mean, just to fill a couple little gaps, but I can almost live with it as it is because it's so beautiful. It's really.
See, here I was thinking you were talking about a small tree. You can't run with a tree that size.
That one would be some work, but it would throw my back out for sure. But I'd probably take the Louisiana. It's looking so good, and it's ready for a show. So
Louisiana
I'd probably.
Hawthorne.
Hallelujah.
Jay's been trying to get me.
I've been trying to get him. He's had trees show worthy for a decade, and he doesn't show. I said, well, let me borrow
good
it.
time.
I'll get it out in the circuit,
Well, I mean, it gives you like a little rabbit hole to pull things out of.
That's why I've been elected to set up shows. I've done probably 15 to 20 big, good, high caliber shows. It's fun to be me.
So, Greg, I have to ask, not to cut Jay off here, but I have to ask. I thought I had the best Valley Oak, so Quercus lobata Valley Oak, and I'm like, 19 years now, and I know it's 19 years because the week that my oldest son was born, I had the fall before that, so he was born in March. The fall before that, I collected a bunch of acorns up in Roseville outside of Sacramento, and I held on to the acorns. My wife was pregnant, and I decided the week that he was born to plant them. And then I ground grew a bunch of them and ended up with some pretty good trunks. 6-inch trunks, good Nabari, that kind of stuff. And here I am thinking that I've got some of the best Valley Oaks. And then I show up in your yard and I'm like, wait a minute, where did this thing come from? So tell us a little bit about your Valley Oak.
Once again, I've been trying to get him to show that tree for at least 5 years.
All right, let's go back to JT. JT was a super early mentor in part of the Santa Cruz,
John
San
Thompson,
Jose,
for those of you who don't know.
and
JT.
Monterey. He was involved with that whole. I was in Monterey, Watsonville, Santa Cruz, and involved with San Jose. can't remember the Midori group. So JT turned us on to this nursery up in the foothills called, it was Ed's, Calaveras Nursery. It was a strictly oak acorns collected all over the world, all cultivated on this property for God knows how long. But he started in San Jose. And my Valley Oak, I came into his nursery one day and I saw, and I got the deciduous oaks was another species that absolutely blew my mind away. Had the gnarliness, the twigginess, the deciduous, scary, spooky, kind of haunted tree.
Sleepy Hollow.
The Sleepy
where
Hollow.
We grew up.
Which is, the fantasy is a big part of why I do bonsai. I like the miniatures, monsters, the miniature landscapes and fantasy worlds. That's for me, that's something that's still keeps me excited. But the deciduous oaks, as I know you too, Eric, love deciduous oaks. Growing up in California, you can't help but love blue oaks and valley oaks. But that oak, when I got there to that nursery, one of the first trees I saw was this monster tree that had the whole center tree would rot it out. And he's all, I can't sell that. You just take it. Just get it out of here. And he's all,
Where was I?
I can't sell that. I cannot sell it. The whole middle where the created this huge trunk had died. And these one about, a third up the tree had created this perfect little shell to build and bark like this fantasy. So
and the Nabari,
but the work, I 2 chainsaws. When I got that home, it was in a 40-inch box. 2 chainsaw blades later to chop that down before I grew it in the ground for 2 or 3 years. That went back and forth twice to the ground, to a box, back to the ground. But that root ball was like iron. I could not. I thought Valley Oaks had mushy roots. I thought,
oh my God,
never seen anything harder in my life. But I grew it in the ground for a couple of years to develop. Started wiring, pulling branches down, starting to slowly, and then had a real amazing workshop with Bjorn, and we really kind of set the. I put a lot of branches, had wired it a bunch of times, but we had a pretty magical session with Bjorn and Peter Adams too is another guy that was really influential on that tree.
I'd like to see you running down the road with that in your arms.
Well,
it would take
need a forklift.
I was going to say,
awesome,
well, it's on wheels. Did you notice? It's on a little dolly.
That's the only way you could move that.
Maybe like pushing it down the road on
So, Eric, just for all you deciduous oak freaks out there, deciduous oaks, the only thing that sucks about them is in the spring, they are very susceptible to fungus. The powdery mildew will destroy your canopy. You literally, one drop of water, I don't care how pure whatever it is, it will leave. Once you get that going, you got to keep them sunniest location and no moisture. And it's a lot of work in the springtime. It's literally my life revolves around that thing going in and out. That's why it's on wheels.
So you're keeping it inside at night in the spring so that it doesn't get dew on the leaves?
Yeah, I keep it out of the rain and the fog. We do get some fog in the early spring. The frost obviously I
remember I saw it one year and it was ugly.
It's horrible.
It definitely. I mean, it happens to me out. Some of the ones that I have at the nursery will just they just end up with brown edges around it. And I've always thought it was just that I was not watering enough because they seem to like a ton of water.
Yeah.
So
the soil you use, I can see why.
It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of expertise to get it right because it's a labor of love.
And that's the other
and the
thing.
blue oaks too are similar.
But the fall
English
color,
oak.
the fall color, it's not super neon yellow, but it's just this.
It's a rustic
magic.
It's a rustic orange yellow that's very
fall
very
color. It's so natural.
On the Quercus lobatas. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of deciduous oaks. In fact, I had Andrew Robson suggested that I start growing red oak, which is a north central United States, sort of like Wisconsin and that kind of area.
I put a lot of red oak hardwood floors in.
Well, I don't know if it's because there's red oak and white oak in terms of like lumber. But this one is red oak. Like I think it's called red oak just because the leaves are so fiery red. Like we're talking about, maple leaves. It's the same kind of thing. But I don't, because they're native to the middle of the country, it can't be the same as California in terms of the sensitivity to the
probably
water and
not an issue.
So, but talk a little bit about you had was it a Mount Tabor oak or Israeli oak? That's also deciduous, even though the leaves look like.
It's kind of semi-deciduous.
No,
Jay, does yours
no.
drop yours
That-
100%?
That is now my tree, and it gets beautiful lemon-colored leaves.
Yeah.
And they all drop off, which is fabulous because I bust out the wire and wire all those new beautiful branches up.
Makes it a lot easier.
Well, that tree that Jay has now, that came from Mick, the same guy got the valley. I've got probably 20 trees from Mick. Jay's had over the years probably 20 plus trees. He did have some beech. Jay got some beech.
I did a big beech forest.
Eric, you'll be happy to know that also my big Scots pine that you saw, that came from Mick as well. And Ryan helped me set the course for that.
I think that's a future expo tree. Actually, I think the Valley Oak is too.
That'd be a rough double.
We may need to rent a semi to get it there, but
Well, I mean,
That's a
not
big
necessarily on the same year, but it's good to have big trees in the room.
But the Israeli was the neat thing about those trees is Mick actually collected the acorns. Went to Israel, went to Northern Africa. He collected on that trip where the Israeli came from. Is from Israel. It's pretty cool. The Valley Oak came from Los Gatos, where that acorn was originated, which is kind of cool. That the guy that actually sowed
grew
that
them
tree
from a seed.
passed away a few years ago.
Yeah.
So on the opposite end of that spectrum, you're working, a little bit here and there with Dylan Ferreira from Cedar Rose Nursery, who's been on the podcast at least once, maybe twice with Jonas. And I think he's growing them, right? Have you been potting up seedlings?
Absolutely. Thousands of them.
Of Israeli oaks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they did really well from what I could see. The cork oaks, not so much. The cork oaks didn't do so well. Everything did fairly well, but the cork oaks, I was surprised. They didn't like the repotting, and I wasn't real aggressive or crazy but they budded out though. They were set back though. But the Israelis came back. I want to get some of those too. They're great little.
Sorry, you can't have it back.
Although Greg's planning for the future, I think, Jay. Not for reclaiming the one that you have.
I'm planning on the face plant in the near future. So that's why I need to get rid of a lot of trees so I can will my grandson my car instead of a bunch of trees.
What are you gonna do? So your famous PR tours, if you don't have any trees, how are you gonna do a PR tour?
I'm not getting rid of them all, but I will be showing up with less, which I have been doing. The older I get, the less energy I have, and it's like I remember I showed 18 trees at the Redwood Empire show one year when me and Frank Bardella were just assaulting the show world. And, that was 15 years ago. I don't have energy of that caliber anymore. And, it's a lot. And people don't realize how much work it is just to spruce up a tree to show it, even if it's in good shape already. You got to moss it and clean all the pots and prune and maybe throw a little wire here and there. It's a lot of work. And then you have to have the vehicle to get 18 trees to and from the show. So it's a lot of work, a lot of dedication.
So the Reb show that you were just talking about has always
coming up in a month.
Well, so we're in August right now as we're taping this, and it's later this month. But talk a little bit.
Only by a week.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about an August show. Like, how did it look in August versus like your fall show?
The toughest month in the year to show trees.
Well, I mean, I remember going there and actually seeing, I think someone had like a golden delicious apple or something that
Yeah.
was absolutely amazing.
Yeah. And there are a lot of trees that, I should say, there's a few trees that show very well at that time of year. But, my main master that through the years was Kathy Shaner, and she would gear all our maintenance on the trees for that third week in August, which was, you could set your watch by that week. We would always have it that time of the year, and she would, we would defoliate at a certain month. So when the show came along, the leaves were out at the perfect hardened off level, and it was a lot of maintenance tricks. She was an expert at making those trees look fabulous the third week in August. So if you're kind of like I am, where 2-3 weeks before the show you get busy, you miss the boat by 3 months, because you have to do these things to really make, the best trees in the Rebs show, when Rebs was really on fire, were the trees that were under her strict tutelage, because she knew exactly what to do to them, when to do them, and they would just be in all their glory in the third week in August. So it's a tough time of the year if you just, say, okay, I got the show coming up, I got a month. You get busy, you prune, you detail and doctor as well as you can. But if you didn't do a few of the specifics 3 months prior, you're not going to be at the top level like the trees she was producing for that time of year.
So was it something that she was teaching you, like you were?
She was.
Going
I'm
back,
not a very good student.
But I mean, was it like, so even if you don't remember the specifics, was she telling you things like, okay, the show is August 23rd, you need to count 6 weeks back and defoliate
exactly
your
what she
maples?
was doing. Yeah. There was a guy, his name is Wayne Culp, and he is a fabulous student. He manned up, he had good trees, and he would follow her instructions to the letter, and would be in there two times a month. We had master workshops every month, and he was one of the guys that had a double dose of her every month, and he did exactly what she told him to do, and he had the best looking trees in the show every year. Interesting, fruiting, everything from conifers to fruit and everything in between. And it was humbling because I'm famous for my impatience. Oh no, I'll get to it, but I never would. And I'd be diligent a month before the show, but it wouldn't compare to Wayne's trees, because he was following her schedule, which she was so much more advanced than all of us. She was the only, or one of the few women that's ever graduated from the NIP, or got the accreditation from the
Nippon Bonsai, yeah.
Bonsai Society, or wherever it is. So she taught me a lot, but I reluctantly didn't adhere to a lot of it.
Greg, that reminded me of your hawthorn, actually. Did you in 2022, did you defoliate it on a particular schedule to get it ready for the expo?
Nope, never defoliate my hawthorns.
No.
Nope,
You did
never.
one year.
Not my Washington thorns. Never defoliate them. Just did a hard pruning at a certain point in the season, and then waited for the fine ones to pinch. And then I pinched
Pinch off the dinner plates, right?
Not the dinner plates, the new growth that had come. I did a hard prune. I don't know exactly when, but I timed it. I know probably, I don't know, June, maybe like second week of June, like black pine candle pinching time. I did a hard cut, not hard, but a
shaping prune.
Yeah.
So are there species that you would have defoliated in prep for an October or early November show.
Trident maples.
Tridents,
Yep, I've got 3 tridents.
He's got 3 good tridents.
Japanese maples too. I'm some varieties. Obviously, old Japanese maples don't respond the same, but some Japanese maples I would, because I don't do them every year. I kind of alternate with my maples.
So in your area, defoliating a Japanese maple like once a year is pretty much a slam dunk in terms of health wise.
I don't do anything automatic. I don't like to have a regular defoliation. Tridents, yeah. Tridents are pretty brutal. Well, not like I said, if it's strong enough, I don't do anything automatically. I let the tree. If the tree's looking good, you can tell when a tree's really vigorous, it's really ready for the procedure, then I do it. But I don't do anything just automatic.
Japanese maples, you start defoliating them and they start growing these weird mutant looking leaves.
They pop in the crotch.
Now that's Japanese maple, certain varieties anyway. But I've never been super successful. I'll what we call the pop the dinner plates off, the big huge ones.
Right. Yeah.
And a few back in there. But I remember I defoliated one time all the way, and that was the weirdest set of leaves I ever seen on a Japanese maple. So, no, I don't recommend that you go that route.
For fall color, though, I've had good success in some years. I defoliated Shishigashira one year, and it had the best damn fall color and the teeniest little shishi.
Was that the every other or strip it?
I did 100% on a Shishigashira, and it had unbelievable fall color. I mean, double what it normally gets, and it already gets fantastic.
Yeah, but who the hell's got one of those?
Yeah.
It's like the rarest maple on the planet.
It was super vigorous. It's based on the year and how vigorous the tree is when I
Now, do you still have that tree, or did you give it to Jay and
do.
he sold it?
I put it in an iguana
I
tank.
tripled my money on that one.
I don't sell my shishis.
Pump and dump.
Shishis I just love, and
No, that tree it's awesome. He's got a maple collection that I swear I'd put up against just about anybody as far as the amount of different species that he owns.
Eric, we were talking about maples and the Goshiki, not the Goshiki, but the Murasaki Kiyohime that I got coming. It's like yours that you had in the expo, the one you brought on the airplane from Japan. It's going to be like that, but it's going to be a Murasaki, if you can believe that.
We might have to edit that out.
All the maple freaks will know this. They'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
You're one of the maple freaks. I'll back you up on that.
I'm still only halfway wading into this sort of thing. I have got a toe in the maple world, but the varieties, I think you know a lot more about them than I do.
The cultivars are so special because they each have a really unique texture, leaf shape, little bit of variability on how they grow. There's just
the colors is what blows me away.
The spring
when you
colors.
Go to his yard in the fall.
Every tree, you can have a row of Japanese maples, and every one of them looks a little different if you got an eye.
So, Jay, when you were running the fall show here in Marin, did you encourage people on the same schedule that Kathy was talking about in terms of?
I kind of did. When I got a show coming up and I was as, big a part of that show that I was more concerned with just going to all the people in the club, go to their garden, and tell them what trees they're going to show. This is what you got to get ready, not that. This is a fall show, not a spring or summer show. It's all about fall color, and then if you don't have any fall color, okay, then we'll take your couple of conifers that we're going to put in between the fall color. But so the education part, I'm not a good teacher as far as telling you what to do with your bonsai. I'll show you how to wire. I'll tell you how often I feed, just general styling and maintenance info. But as far as the actual super horticulture tricks, I'm an idiot, really. I just get lucky, put it that way.
So you were curating the show more by selection than
Exactly.
by
Absolutely. And that's the way it should be. Don't.
Well, how often did you find that
so many people get involved with this sentimentality crap? Forget about that was your first tree. So what? Nobody cares. It's all about how good the tree looks and how good the tree is going to look in composition with all the other trees. Think about the show, not your idiosyncratic thing that you got in the back of your mind.
the story?
The story, yeah. I mean, if you get a tree in that has a good story, but first and foremost, you got to worry about how good your tree is going to look in the show. That's first and foremost. Anything else is, irrelevant.
Wait, Greg, do you still have your first tree?
Yeah, it was in the expo, the 2022. That little redwood was the first tree I ever collected.
That was an accent plant.
Well, it was an accent.
But you guys are like, I don't even know how you're brothers. I mean, you're like polar opposites.
Hey, there's two
when it comes to
two
bonsai.
sides
Did
of
you
the
see
cover.
the trunk on that redwood? It's the most perfectly
It
tapering
is.
little tree.
It's so puny.
I think, Greg, I forgot about the redwood because I couldn't get past the fact that you had a hawthorn that was like going to burn the entire building
You
down.
needed sunglasses to look at that
I know.
hawthorn.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
And I had one that was on my sales table that was almost as vibrant as he's the one that got me into hawthorns. And that was another thing when I was doing that, the Marin Fall show, I had 2 hawthorn forests that had incredible fall color. But he's the one that planted the seed for sure.
I mean, you can't beat them for
You
fall
can't beat
color.
'em.
I mean, you feel like you're in Vermont.
And they're so user friendly. Other than if you get poked with one of those thorns, they don't call them Washington thorns for nothing.
Unless you have them littered around your yard.
Yeah, well,
My wife doesn't love them so
they're
much.
Great trees, and they bark up, and they don't really want to grow straight. They kind of contort a little on their own, and they're just awesome species.
They don't conform to bonsai the way that you'd like them to, but that's kind of what I like about them. They're not this easy. They're not very predictable. You do what you do, and they kind of do their own growth patterns a lot of times. They get leggy. They're a difficult tree to keep ramified too. That's another thing, and it takes a long time because you don't get the bifurcation like a lot of deciduous trees. You only get really one
shoot that comes
you're
out
only
where you
getting
pruned it.
the movement if you prune.
Do you cut the thorns off?
Not me.
Some years when I'm not worried about it,
spooky looking.
when I have to wire a tree, I have to defoliate the thorns.
Sissy.
I found that I cannot stand.
He drives a Volkswagen. I drive a Hemi.
I can't deal with the thorns that kind of like if you're letting an escape branch grow and those thorns are like two and a half inches long. I mean, they're really big.
They'll go through your
The
finger.
Indians performed surgery with those back in the day. So
Yeah, we're part Cherokee, by the way.
And our people could have used them potentially because Cherokee are from Kentucky,
Supposedly,
North Carolina area, and that's some of our roots.
That's how I bought my first truck, clear and poison oak. We don't get it.
The McDonald genes are.
Hey,
better
Cherokee,
knock on wood. That's how
1/16, baby.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. Is there
that note,
anything else you want to add?
Don't get me going.
All right, Greg, thank you. Jay, thank you, and call it a wrap.
The The music on today's podcast was brought to you by the fine folks at Blue Dot Sessions. Check them out at www.sessions.blue.
Okay, now we take the headphones off.